25% of federal government employees make a six-figure income. That is not the way that Cicero talked about the proper means by which you run a nation. When he talks about the treasury being refilled and the public debt should be reduced, it was 3 weeks ago. They got up there and they said, well, we all voted for pay-as-you-go. Give us a hand, clap, hey, go team, go. But what they did not tell you was that they voted to raise the debt limit by $1.9 trillion to $13 trillion, which tells you one thing. How are we going to ever balance the budget? Do you really think they're serious about fiscal responsibility? Absolutely not. Because once again, as the wealth is taken away from the American people and is stored in Washington, D.C., the balance of power is upset. And as Jefferson said, liberty is when the government hears the people. Tyranny is when the people feel the government. And that is what they're using against us. Not empowering us by giving us back our wealth so that we can grow this economy, so that we can have a future and a legacy. Right now, in the United States of America, every single person has a debt on their head of $47,000. Man, woman, and child. How can we continue on with that statement? It talks about also the arrogance of officialdom. The ruling class elite is what we have sent to Washington, D.C. You know, Plato has a quote. It says, those who refuse to engage in politics will be governed by their inferiors. That's where we are in Washington, D.C. When you look and you see the Secretary of the Treasury, the old turbo tax team, where will we be? When you look and see the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, the keeper of the tax codes, when you look and see the Attorney General of the United States of America, who is putting people in key judicial positions in the Department of Justice, who have been cohorted in protecting and defending our enemies. You look and see over Broward County, the county commissioners that are being sent to jail, Palm Beach County. You look all across our states. You look at Governor Patterson in New York. We have allowed the worst amongst us to govern us. That's what we have to do. That is the essence of what you all have become in this Tea Party. To go back and say, we will not allow the inferiors to govern. We will look around and we will find the right type of Americans, the right type of patriots to go and represent us to make sure that the future and the legacy of this great republic continues on. It also talks about the assistance to foreign land should be curtailed. I got to tell you, I went in a few of Saddam's palaces that our money helped to build. Think about Robert Mugabe who's involved. Think about all of the despots, autocrats, and theocrats that we're supporting all across this great nation. I'm not saying that America should not help people, because we will. We're benevolent people. And of course, if the federal government would put more money back in our pocket, we would really see how benevolent the American people will be. But we, as it says in the Bible, are casting our pearls before swine. And if we continue to do that, we are wasting the wealth of this great nation. One of the key places we can do to come back and help our budget is to go and re-examine our foreign aid spending and make sure that we're putting it in the right places. There's no reason why the United States of America should be sending foreign aid to Saudi Arabia. Lest Rome becomes bankrupt. Scratch out Rome and put in America. That's the road that we're on right now. And if you look and study the collapse of Rome and the events that led up to it, the corruption in the Senate, the fact that they did not protect their border to the north, the fact that what was once a great manufacturing empire became an empire of consumers. And that's what we're coming right now. We're not manufacturing. We're not producing. We're not exporting like we used to once upon a time. See, if we could get back to the point where flat tax stays out, because we've got to get more people into this system. We've got to cut that 33% corporate business tax rate so that businesses can hire Americans, stop sending jobs elsewhere. That will help us, once again, to become the great nation that we are. And we are a great nation. We are an exceptional nation. And shame on anyone that stands in front of another nation or another country or another assembly and puts down this great nation. That the men who we saw stood up to protect freedoms and extend liberties to, it's not the American way. That's not leadership. That's not what Cicero would have thought was right and proper. But the last part is the most important part that we have to correct in this nation. When Cicero said, people must again learn to work instead of living on public assistance. In the military, we call it the self-licking ice cream cone. Government creates victims. Victims become dependent on government. Government has to grow to take care of the people that are dependent upon it because they are victims. Senator Bunning had a great point. Let's stop extending unemployment benefits. Let's stop telling Americans to sit at home. See, I'm a conservative. This is what my parents brought me up to believe. It's about individual responsibility and accountability. And a conservative believes this, that each and every person in the United States of America, when they're born here, they get a ladder. Because with that ladder, there's equal opportunity in this country that you can climb and achieve. And as the Army once said as its motto, be all you can be. But as a conservative, guess what we provide? We provide a safety net. Because some people will slip and fall. But we want them to get back up there and get back in that game, to continue to climb that ladder. What do liberals give you? They give you a hammock. So that you can lay up, swing up sorry for the rest of your life, totally dependent upon them. We live in a nation where 50% almost don't pay taxes. But yet, what do? They vote. So it's very easy for Joe politician to come down and say, sir, you're going to get free health care. Ma'am, you're going to get free education. Ma'am, you're going to get free cell phones. Sir, back there, we're going to give you a cash for clunker. We're going to give you a cash for a washing machine. We're going to give you a cash for caulkers. And people buy into it. Because we have made Americans victims. Not empowering them, but creating a 21st century plantation where we are enslaving the American will and enslaving the American mind, which leads to an enslavement of the body. This is why the Tea Party movement is so important. So that you can go out and you can take Cicero's quote from 55 BC say, these are the things that we have to correct in this country to get it back on the right track, lest America becomes bankrupt. But it's not only that. It's not just the fiscal security that we must ensure with the federal government. We must make sure they get back within the mandates of the Constitution. But the most important thing is the physical security of the American people. Let me tell you something. Protecting the American people does not mean that you give constitutional rights to illegal enemy combatants. Protecting the American people does not mean that you leave our border unsecured, just like Rome left its northern border unsecured. The number one language that is being learned by Islamic terrorists is Spanish. Hezbollah has training camps in South America. Iran has gone into agreements with Venezuela. Then you have the Ortegas in Central America that allow those guys to continue on. Then you have the narco gangs, MS-13 in Mexico, that continue to push them on. So that we have people like a Jordanian illegal immigrant that sat in the parking garage in Dallas, Texas, and thought he was sitting in the car bomb and started dialing up the numbers. We are at a serious point for the safety of the American people. And we must face this sentiment, and we must understand who they are. Because we are not doing right by our economy, we have developed a trade surplus with a country that is a communist country